Dr. John Olsson (1951–2021) was an internationally recognized pioneer in the field of forensic linguistics, a discipline that applies linguistic knowledge to legal and criminal investigations. He was particularly renowned for his expertise in authorship analysis, helping to identify the creators of anonymous documents such as ransom notes, hoax letters, and hate mail. Olsson authored several foundational texts, including Forensic Linguistics, An Introduction to Language, Crime, and the Law, and the True Crime-focused Word Crime, which detailed his work on high-profile cases involving murder, terrorism, and fraud. Beyond his casework, he was a dedicated educator who headed the Forensic Linguistics Institute and taught at institutions like Bangor University and Nebraska Wesleyan University, making the complex science of language as evidence accessible to both students and law enforcement worldwide. Organizations can obfuscate, delay, confuse, resort to technical language which sounds like everyday language, and generally play the corporate game with little fear of being brought to account. John Olsson, Word Crime, Solving Crime Through Forensic Linguistics. Born in 1951 and originally from Powys in mid-Wales, John Olsson began his professional path in the 1970s working as an interpreter for the Metropolitan Police in London. This early exposure to the intersection of language and law enforcement preceded a diverse academic and business journey. He earned a degree in psychology in 1980 and practiced as a psychotherapist for a short period before spending time in the business sector. His transition into the specialized field of forensic linguistics solidified in the mid-1990s when he founded the Forensic Linguistics Institute and began pursuing advanced degrees, including a Master's in Linguistics from Bangor University and a Master of Philosophy from the University of Birmingham. These early experiences as both a police interpreter and a psychological practitioner provided the practical foundation for his later career as one of the world's leading experts in analyzing the language of crime. 1997, The Dictation and Alteration of Text. This early journal article represents Olsson's foundational academic work in forensic text analysis. It tackles the complex linguistic scenario where a text is not written directly by its author but is dictated to and subsequently altered by a second party, such as a secretary or co-conspirator. The paper meticulously explores the methodological challenge of disentangling the idiolect, the unique linguistic fingerprint of the original author, from the stylistic influences and alterations introduced by the scribe. By focusing on this specific practice, Olsson establishes key principles for analyzing collaborative or mediated documents, a common issue in legal cases involving wills, contracts, or conspiratorial communications, thereby setting the stage for his later practical case books. 2001, Review of Studies in Authorship Recognition, a corpus-based approach by Heike Hanlein. In this scholarly review, Olsson engages critically with contemporary research in the then-emerging computational field of authorship attribution. He evaluates Hanlein's corpus-based, statistical approach to identifying authors, assessing its rigor, methodology, and applicability to real forensic problems. This review positions Olsson as an informed commentator within the academic community of forensic linguistics, demonstrating his deep understanding of both traditional linguistic analysis and newer quantitative techniques. It highlights his ongoing interest in refining and validating the tools used to provide expert evidence in court. 2004, Forensic Linguistics, An Introduction to Language, Crime, and the Law. First edition. This marked Olsson's seminal entry into the textbook market, establishing him as a leading educator in the field. The book provides a comprehensive and accessible introduction to the entire scope of forensic linguistics, moving beyond just authorship analysis to cover areas like courtroom discourse, the language of legislation, police interviews, and linguistic trademarks. Designed for students and professionals, it systematically explains how linguistic theories and methods are applied to investigative and legal contexts. This first edition became a key resource for defining the discipline and training a new generation of forensic linguists. The Da Vinci Code Plagiarism Dispute 2005 to 2006, Olsson was engaged as an expert witness in the high-stakes civil suit where authors Louis Perdue and, in a separate action, Michael Begant and Richard Lee alleged Dan Brown's blockbuster The Da Vinci Code infringed upon their earlier works. In a detailed declaration for the court, Olsson conducted a meticulous comparative textual analysis, focusing on Perdue's novels Daughter of God and The Lynn's Testament. His forensic approach went beyond vague thematic similarities to identify specific, sequential linguistic parallels. He catalogued 74 points of similarity, with an impressive 68 occurring in the same order across the texts. A particularly telling piece of evidence was a shared rare error. Both texts incorrectly referred to a specific parchment as vellum, a technically inaccurate term in the given context. Olsson's analysis was crucial in defining the scope of protectable expression, moving the argument from one of general idea theft to one of specific textual sequencing and detail. Although the courts ultimately ruled that the copied elements were not substantial enough to constitute copyright infringement, Olsson's work demonstrated how forensic linguistics could provide tangible, quantifiable evidence in complex intellectual property litigation. Other homicide investigations, beyond these headline trials, Olsson applied his skills to over 150 murder cases, often where disputed texts were central evidence. In the 2005 Barrel Killer case involving Julie Turner's murder, he analyzed communications to help establish intent and relationships. For the 2008 Dorset suitcase murder Richard Emery, his work on related texts assisted in building the narrative against Samantha Falder and Richard Ormond. In the 2007 murder of Kashif Mahmood by Rianasker, linguistic analysis of communications was key. Across these varied investigations, Olsson's role was consistent: to objectively examine confessions, notes, text messages, and letters to determine authenticity, attribute authorship, and decode concealed meanings, turning the language of the crime itself into reliable evidence for the prosecution. 2008, Forensic Linguistics, An Introduction to Language, Crime, and the Law. Second edition. Published just 4 years after his foundational textbook, this solo-authored second edition was a substantial and strategic expansion that reflected the field's rapid growth and Olsson's own deepening practical experience. Far from a simple reprint, this revision integrated crucial new content that directly addressed gaps in forensic practice. It featured entirely new chapters dedicated to the language of the justice system, examining the discourse of judges, lawyers, and legal rulings, the critical, often overlooked challenges of forensic transcription, where inaccuracies in converting speech to text can miscarry justice, and a significantly expanded section on forensic phonetics, bridging the analysis of written text with the analysis of voice and spoken evidence. This edition solidified the book's status as the essential, up-to-date manual for the discipline, demonstrating Olsson's commitment to ensuring the textbook evolved in lockstep with both academic developments and the real-world needs of investigators and the courts. 2009, Word Crime, Solving Crime Through Forensic Linguistics. Departing from the textbook style, Word Crime is Olsson's first popular science work, crafted to engage a general audience. It is a gripping collection of real case studies from his own practice, each chapter unraveling a different word crime, from analyzing threatening letters and ransom notes to detecting plagiarism and faked confessions. Written in a narrative, detective story style, the book demystifies the forensic linguistic process, showing step by step how close reading of grammar, word choice, and punctuation can uncover vital clues, expose deception, and help solve serious crimes, making the esoteric science both fascinating and understandable to the public. 2009, Towards the Modeling of Forensic Authorship Methods. PhD Thesis Report. This academic work represents the theoretical underpinning of Olsson's practical expertise. Likely his doctoral thesis or a major research report, it delves into the complex, foundational relationship between an author's idiolect, the specific text in question, and the constraints of genre. The work aims to create a more robust, scientifically defensible model for authorship analysis by examining how these variables interact and change over time. It is a crucial piece of scholarly research that informs and validates the methodologies he advocates for and uses in his casework and expert testimony. 2011, Forensic Discourse Analysis, a work in progress. In this book chapter, Olsson focuses on a specific subfield, the analysis of spoken or written discourse in legal settings. He explores how power dynamics, questioning strategies, and narrative construction operate in contexts like police interrogations, courtroom cross-examinations, and witness statements. The chapter frames this area as dynamically evolving, reflecting Olsson's view that forensic linguistics must continuously adapt its tools to decode the purposeful and often manipulative use of language within the coercive framework of the law, where meaning and implication are paramount. 2012, Some Aspects of the Use of Corpora in Forensic Linguistics. This chapter addresses the technological evolution of the field. Olsson examines the growing importance of language corpora, large, structured collections of electronic text as essential reference tools. He explains how forensic linguists use general and specialized corpora to establish norms of language use, for example, determining how rare a particular word or phrase is, thereby providing quantitative support for qualitative stylistic judgments. This work demonstrates his commitment to grounding linguistic analysis in empirical, data-driven evidence to enhance its objectivity and credibility in legal proceedings. The Murder of Diana Lee David Ryan Case 2013, this investigation became a textbook example of Olsson's ability to detect deception in digital communication. After Diana Lee was murdered by David Ryan, texts were sent from her phone to her family, purportedly from her, stating she needed time alone. Olsson's linguistic autopsy of these messages revealed profound inconsistencies with the victim's known idiolect and the situational context. He noted uncharacteristic phrasing, formal punctuation where she typically used none, and a narrative designed to delay discovery, e.g., "Tell kids not to worry. Sorting my life out. Be in touch to get some things." He concluded the messages were a forensic fabrication, likely authored by Ryan himself in a calculated attempt to create an alibi, control the timeline, and buy time to dispose of evidence. This analysis provided critical evidence of consciousness of guilt and was pivotal in securing Ryan's conviction for murder. 2013, Forensic Linguistics. 3rd edition, with J. Luxembourg. This substantially revised and expanded edition of his 2004 textbook incorporates over a decade of advancements in the field and his own practical experience. Co-authored with Jacqueline Luxembourg, it updates case studies, refines methodologies, and broadens its theoretical coverage. The new edition solidified the book's status as a definitive academic handbook, reflecting the maturation of forensic linguistics as a discipline and its wider acceptance within both academia and the legal world. R. V. Cregan, Livesey, and others 2013, in this case involving the notorious killer Dale Cregan and Associates, Olsson was tasked with analyzing a letter found in Cregan's prison cell. The authorship was disputed, with implications for prison communications and conspiracy. By examining distinctive linguistic features including unique phraseology, syntactic habits, and lexical choices, Olsson provided an expert opinion that the letter's idiolect more closely aligned with that of co-defendant Luke Livesey than with Cregan. This analysis helped the court understand the provenance of the document and the network of communication between the defendants. 2014, who amended the amendment? This Law Journal article showcases the application of forensic linguistics to historical legal political disputes. Olsson applies his analytical techniques to a textual controversy surrounding a constitutional amendment or similar legislative document. The article demonstrates that forensic linguistics is not only for criminal cases but can also be used to investigate questions of authorship, alteration, and intent in foundational public texts, potentially shedding light on issues of political process and historical truth. 2015 was the President-framed SSRN paper. In this online working paper, Olsson likely turns his analytical lens onto a high-profile political or historical case, possibly involving alleged forgery or manipulation of documentary evidence related to a head of state. Such work illustrates how forensic linguistics can intervene in public debates shrouded in conspiracy or controversy, using objective linguistic criteria to assess the authenticity and provenance of contentious texts that carry significant political weight. 2018, More Word Crime. This successful sequel to Word Crime offers a fresh set of captivating case studies from Olsson's files, responding to the public appetite ignited by the first book. It covers new ground, including analyses of terrorist propaganda, forged letters in cold cases, and the linguistics of suicide notes. More Word Crime reinforces his skill as a communicator, further bridging the gap between specialist knowledge and public understanding, while also reflecting the expanding range of applications for forensic linguistics in the digital age. John Olsson passed away on 2021, at the age of 70 after a period of illness. His death marked a significant loss for the global forensic community, where he was revered as a trailblazer who bridged the gap between academic linguistics and criminal justice. He is remembered by colleagues and students not only for his groundbreaking authorship analysis but also for his wit and dedication to the ethical application of language science in the courtroom.